hillside. Propane stove in a pit blind. It's a sweet 16 hanging over the mantle that your granddaddy gave to you. It's closing that kettle get real slow. Hot hands in your pocket when you're real cold. I can tell you, but you can't know. Won't know until you go. It's the way to go. Long spanks through the breeze and the trees when I'm sitting in a white oak stand. I do it because it's in my blood. It's just a part of who I am. I find my way back to my roots every time I lace my boots. Hit the woods in the dark before the sun comes up. That's why I hunt.
Folks, Jeremy Beard in the drop zone hunting. Holy shit, have we had a hell of a day today. We have had nothing but technical difficulties here in the studio. That's what you get whenever you unplug everything for Christmas and put everything up out of the way and then try to set it all back up. But I think we've got everything lined out. If not, we're going to find out real quick. But this is going to be an exciting episode for me. I've got my good friend, pro staffer, professional shooter in the house with me, Tom Griswold. Tom's in the house. Tom, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, thank you for having me. Absolutely exciting.
So, folks, here's the deal. So, at the beginning of the season, a bunch of guys got together, put up some money, and I had a belt made. And I decided that what we were going to do was just do everybody put up a couple bucks. We're going to run for the bow season, which I think I'm going to change it a little bit next year. But we put it up, bow season, and let it go. And the person with the biggest deer was going to win the title. And over the course, I had a couple of guys, man, they were chasing some damn good ones and just couldn't get it done. And I know another guy, he turned one in, but he just come short. And then Tommy turned in what was that deer?
He scored 165 and 7/8.
165 and 7/8. So, and I'm gonna post pictures of his on there. I'm also going to post pictures again of the one that got second place. We'll talk about that too. But so I guess what I wanted to do, Tom, is I said that once we did this, once the season was up, so I am running a little behind on getting this show in here, but it's February. The title goes home with you today.
Yeah, sweet.
Belt goes home with you. You take the belt wherever you go. The belt goes with you, and take pictures with it and show it off. And you get to carry the belt for the year, and then come, September, October of next year, belt comes back, and we'll redo it again and run it again and see if anybody can claim the title. But so 165 and 7/8 was the deer that won this year, which was Tom's. Tom, let's go back to that day, because I'd like to talk about it a little bit and everything, and let's talk about how you ended up with this belt today.
Yeah, so it was a Saturday, kind of right there when it was getting hit, hot in the rut. Deer super unpredictable. I wasn't really chasing any deer, to be honest with you. I didn't have a Pacific deer I was going after, but anyway, went out hunting. Actually, where I would go to high school at, they were playing in state playoffs. So I was, I could actually listen to it at the football game from where I was at. I could hear the game going on in town, and I was watching it on my phone and just enjoying it. It was a beautiful Saturday evening. Good buddy of mine was up hunting with me.
Yeah.
And just kind of talking to him. I haven't even seen a deer. Hadn't seen a deer all afternoon. And I just got off the phone with him and said, no, I haven't even seen one. And he had seen quite a few deer and was watching deer. And about that time, I heard some crashing coming in behind me. And I didn't even know what the deer was when I shot him. He come up on this high spot and I stopped him. Looked like a great deer, shot him. But this didn't put two and two together on who he was or what he was when I killed him. But anyway, long story short, it was actually a deer we'd watched all summer. So we knew him pretty well and actually hadn't seen him. He kind of disappeared when he went hard horn and hadn't seen the buck at all. And then boom, he shows up right there, just come running in, not chasing anything. Like I said, just kind of run through the honeysuckle and the rest of it's history.
So you say you hadn't seen him, other than early season or early on summertime or whatever. Had you had the pictures of him and stuff in the area you killed him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Real close to it. Actually went back and we found some hard horn pictures of him. Kind of off in the distance. It's not like he was up front and center. We just kind of went through back pictures and actually seen that he was still in the area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was real weird. Like I said, he was all the time. And when he went hard horn, it's like he just completely disappeared. Then like I said, we found a couple hard horn pictures of him, but had no idea that deer was still around there.
Do you think that deer was, how old do you think that deer was?
I think he was a 4.5-year-old deer.
Yeah.
I mean, between us, I wish I'd have let him go, but he's a great deer. Like I said, super happy with him. Kind of caught me off guard when he would come running in there. And I said it was an awesome hunt.
Yeah, that was a great deer. I'll post pictures of it. Definitely one to be proud of. For sure. We talk about that and I always enjoy having my conversations with you with deer hunting stuff because I just like your take on things. But, as far as the season goes, if you had to say anything about your 24-25 season, what would you say? If you had to sum it up.
I've had to sum the season up. I don't know what I would say. I'd almost say it was, hate to even say this, but it was almost easy.
Really?
It was. And like I said, I hate to say that because I know there's other people that struggled with the season, seeing deer. I know you struggled to get them in within range.
I struggled really bad.
Yeah. And this year, I bet I hunted 7 times. I mean, I did not hunt very much. Me and Dustin didn't hunt very much. And I'm telling you, the next 10 years could be the hardest years of our lives, as far as hunting. You just never know how it's going to go. But this year, I don't know if I'd say easy. I'd just say every time we went out, it fell into place.
Because the reason why I ask is because for me, I mean, for a lot of other guys that I even talk to, keep up with, I got a lot of the same stuff, and I'm not a deer biologist, man. I don't know anything about any of that stuff, but to me and to guys that I talked to, they said the rut was weird for them. I felt like the rut was extremely weird. I felt like the rut happened. I felt like when prime time come, my thoughts were the rut was over already.
Yeah.
It just, to me, were in my area where I was at, I felt like the rut come in October, man. I felt like it came in October. And I mean, they were still doing, don't get me wrong, it's November. There's still some deer running, but I never seen hardly any of the chasing that I'd seen, in years past. And the reason why I say I think it come in early, I mean, I don't know. I don't normally hunt early October. So, I usually start about a week before Halloween and then I kind of hit it heavy.
Yep.
And I felt like I was on the tail end of things. I really do. And I would ask other guys and I've had other guys that are great deer hunters, and have great deer hunting property. And I ain't seen a buck all year that's worth shooting yet. I ain't seen a deer all year. I ain't seen a big buck. I ain't seen this. And I ain't seen no chasing. I ain't seen. So I just don't understand how it can vary so much. And, you say you went out and, as a crow flies, we don't hunt that far from each other. I mean, an hour, an hour and some change away. I mean, it's just crazy how things can be so different in different areas.
And I talked to a lot of people this year, and like I said, kind of the same. I mean, some people would say it was really good, and other people would say it wasn't that good. And I know people that they usually kill good deer every year that didn't kill them this year.
Yeah. And there was good deer killed this year.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And it just seemed like it was just a weird year. I mean, even scrapes, like, I moved cameras onto scrape lines and stuff like that when they got hot and heavy, and then it just like, bam, they shut off. Like November, they should be, like right before the rut, they should have just been all over them. They weren't even
Just
there.
weren't.
Yeah. It was just a unique year for me.
Yeah.
I and a lot of other people, but I mean, I don't know I wish I could just have somebody that knows more about deer sitting here with you all the time to answer questions. But I don't even know if there is an answer.
Yeah. And you talk to, or you listen, I guess, to all the big name guys and what they talk about and how does come in the heat and so on and so forth. And is your rut ever going to be the same as last year? Because if that doe dies, another one's got to take her place. And when does she come in? So I think it's always changing. And you've heard me say this before that, man, I can't stand hunting the rut. I would much rather hunt a buck that I know where he's at and go sit on top of him and kill him. But because that rut's just unpredictable. But it's a beautiful time in the woods. I mean, we hunt it every year. But as I said, I don't know. It changes every year. I said next year could be 100% different.
You're right when you say that about, and I'm the worst for it because October, it's hot, and I'm sweating, and it's never seems like the weather's good the 1st of October, but it seems like, I mean, guys that are really, really good at this, there's something to be said and they all do the same thing. It seems like they'll hunt them early, and then they grind out that January and hunt them late.
Yep.
And those guys are the ones that seem like, I never, get into the late season hunting. I don't know if it's because I'm burnt out by the time it gets here, but the guys that do, I got a ton of respect for. I mean, I wish that I was better at that because I've got a ton of respect for guys that can get out there in January and just grind through that cold weather. And the ones that do that really, know what they're doing or know, hunt hard, they end up, I mean, there's a good chance they end up, they'll get them deer coming back to food and them big bucks. I just, I don't know, maybe my property's not set up quite good enough for that, or shouldn't say good enough for, maybe it's just not set up for that late season hunting,
Yeah. And it might not be. Yeah. I mean, I've been walking a lot last couple weekends. I've actually found some dead bucks, I think 3 dead bucks actually, which is never a good sign, but the scouting right now is incredible.
Really?
As far as finding buck beds, finding finding trails. It's incredible right now. I mean, this is the time you need to be doing it I don't like to do it when the itchweed's 4 foot tall and the poison ivy's bad anyway.
Right.
But, right now is an awesome time to be out there trying to find something.
Let's do that. Let's do this. How do you set up your hunting season? Let's start from how do you set up a hunting season for yourself to be the best, put yourself in the best predicament you can?
So we do it different probably than most people. A lot of people, and I shouldn't say we do it different than most people, but a lot of people are all about kill plots. You talk about a word that just feels like nails on a chalkboard. Kill plot. I mean, there's a lot of people that do it and they're successful doing it. Do you have all the time? Do you have all season to hunt? To sit on that plot and wait for him to walk out?
I do not.
Exactly. So we all buy into this stuff. So how I set it up is we scout. I scout nonstop on the weekends right now, just trying to find deer sign where the deer are at. I run a ton of trail cameras, but also get boots on the ground. I find a deer I want to go after, and I go after him. A prime example of this is my boy. He didn't end up killing one with a shotgun, but I went up to him and I said, Easton, I said, what do you want to do? Are we going to sit and wait for him, or are we going to go after him? He goes, no, I'm going to go after him. I said, perfect, let's do it. So, man, the first hunt, he was at 10 yards. He was directly behind us. I routed him right to us. We were on the ground, just couldn't get it done. We ended up I did it the next morning too. He come running in on us, just didn't give him a clear shot. But that's what we do. And my buddy Dustin, you heard me talk a lot about him.
Sure.
The dude's a genius when it comes to killing big whitetails. I mean, and this is no joke. I mean, he comes up. He used to come up a couple weeks. We just getting older and work stuff now. But he'll come up at least a week, and I ain't kidding you. He'll sit on my couch with my wife They'll cook cookies. I mean, food. And then all of a sudden he'll just get up one day and like lick his finger like an Indian and say, yep, going. And he'll go in. I mean, he killed 189 this year. And he don't try very hard.
What
but
do you?
But he does try hard. He knows what he's doing. And like I said, he waits for the times right. So how we set up our hunting? I said we tons of scouting, trail cameras, find the buck and go after the buck. I'm not waiting on food sources for him to come out there. I'm trying to find out where he lives, where he's bedded up at, and like I said, we use our window advantage. Like you know, Dan Involt, you've done the same tactics. Right now is the best time to find them. As far as finding where those bucks were bedded up at, use that to your advantage. Remember that come next year where he lays, where he looks at with the different winds, and go set on him and kill him.
Do you think that I always like to ask different people questions? How much pressure you think you can put on a big deer before you've out pressured him in an area?
Well, it probably varies with all deer because they got different personalities.
Right.
I'll tell you what, this year I had one come up on camera, super good deer. Had kind of trash all over his bases. We had an idea on where he was at. I went and set up on him, and I'll be damned, I walked in, and there he was. He jumped up out of his bed, boom, took off. I sat right there. That would have been about mid-October, getting late October. So I did bring out the rattle antlers, tickled a little bit. Had an awesome 4.5-year-old come in that night. He didn't come back to that bed.
All year?
I've never seen that deer again.
Really?
Nope. I don't think he might have come back on camera like late November when they're really chasing and stuff, or mid-November. But to this day, I haven't seen him since mid-November.
So you think that was a one and done?
Maybe.
Or
maybe. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe he pushed him somewhere else and he ran with some other does. And, but that was my chance. You know what I mean? And I try to, and it sounds maybe condescending, but like me and Dustin say, like, we don't go hunting anymore. Like, we go kill. Like, that's, I mean, and that sounds, like I said, super condescending, but it's not. We knew where that deer was at, and all I had to do was get in there and hopefully come back. He was dead to rights. He just didn't happen. So, and like I said, that first buck I killed this year was just pure luck. All
right. Well, I mean, I'm sure that there is some luck into it, but you still, in order to get the luck, you got to get where they're at.
You got to hunt the deer.
And
I'll give like I said, Dustin is just he's very good at what he does, and he's the one that I know you're probably the same way. But how many deer have you killed out of one tree? I killed my biggest deer here, right? I killed this deer here last year, and you sit there years after years after years, and now they're 80 yards that way. Yeah, I know, but I've killed so many deer right here. Nah, Dustin's been over there and killed 2 of them by the time you get over. That's just who he is.
Right.
If you need to be there, why aren't you there? Why are you here? So, and I learned that from him. I mean, he just, that's where I'm going. Or cut a sendero to where I can shoot him there, something. And it's just turned out incredible.
So you think sometimes we fall guilty of, are we scared of aggression?
100%.
You know what I mean?
You're
scared to get aggressive in there because you don't want to screw it up.
That's right. Yep.
And you think that's a big mistake?
Well, how many people you talk to and they're like, oh man, we hung this new set. It was awesome. Awesome this year. Man, there were so many bucks around. It's because it was new. Because you moved. They didn't have a clue they was there, There's a guy, I'm trying to think of his name. There's another guy I listen to, Tony Platt. He's from Michigan. He kills big deer in Michigan. If you kill big deer in Michigan, you know what you're doing because there ain't a lot of them. And
right.
He talks about it. He's like, the bucks watch the does tell the tale. So how many doe, you just seen a doe come out and he looks up at your tree stand and the bucks are in the timber watching them. He talks about this all the time. And that's how they learn. They watch the behavior of the does. They know what's going on. A doe gets a little windy of you. All of a sudden, the buck ain't coming out. So they're always learning. So, yeah, the little new sets around, or where do you think that buck's is killer?
Do you think that, there's a lot of things here that I want to talk to you about, but, one of them, if we're going to stay on that, let's talk about big acreage versus small acreage.
Yeah.
Do you keep the same
mentality? I think
so. Or
so.
do you have to change?
Well, I guess big acreage in Illinois and big acreage in Missouri would be 100% different.
Sure.
You know, because I said Dustin, he comes from big southeast to Missouri deer, and he's killed some big ones down there. I think that's 100% different than what we do up here. But as far as Illinois hunting big acreage to small acreage, yeah, I mean, I still think you use your pinch points and your knobs and stuff like that to get on deer.
Well, something that I think I learned this year, I don't have, I don't know what people consider big acres versus small acres, but to me, in my eyes, over 100 acres is kind of big hunting.
I think so. Absolutely.
And I don't usually have any spots that are, they're more broke up into 40s and a 60 here. Or, if it is 100 acres, there ain't much timber on it. It's more tree lines and little thickets and stuff, But I think that one thing that I'm going to have to get better at is patience with, and you and I have talked about this on the phone numerous times of, how you brought up, we no longer really hunt anymore. We try to just go in and kill it, know. And I really truly think there's something to be said for that because I think that it comes down to being able to keep yourself out of the moment of you get a trail camera picture of him or, you're out looking around and you see him, but it's not optimal. The winds ain't right, and you just shove in anyways, trying. And I think for smaller ground, I think that's a big, and I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think smaller acreage, a guy needs to probably spend more time watching than hunting because they can set up in so many places that, if they're living in smaller areas, they can see so far that they watch you come across that ridge cap of that bean field every day going out to where you're hunting, and they might be there, but they're watching you go there and they're patterning what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Whereas big timber or big ground, you can maneuver around, where he gets up and moves over to the neighbor's ground and you can't hunt that, but he got up and left because he's seen you. Where if you had all of it around you, then you can start trying to come in from different ways and, make it a little more, make yourself a little more. I mean, you can only access one way in, one way out of places or limited access. Now they're kind of getting the upper hand again,
Absolutely.
So, that's a cat and mouse game within itself, trying to figure out how to manipulate that smaller acreage and access and stuff, and I don't think I've figured it all out yet.
Like I said, that Tony, he's a super good dude to listen to. He basically says it like it is. There's two different types of deer bedding. Deer bed in the day in the thick stuff. Deer bed at night out in open fields. What are you doing in the morning? You're walking across an open field, with them deer bed. So yeah, you need to take all that into account for sure. And I'll ask you this question, and this comes from that Tony, but if you had 40 acres, that's all you had, timber. And he says, okay, if you were going to put your deer bedding in that 40 acres, where would you put it? Would you put it edges, middle? Where do you think you'd put it? Now you're surrounded by neighbors.
Probably in the middle.
Yes.
I mean, if you were, probably.
Yeah. And saying that's the exact opposite. Put it on your neighbor's fence lines. So that was a question that was asked to Tony. He's like, well, my neighbor's hunting my fence line. What am I supposed to do with that? And he goes, put all your deer bedding on it. He goes, so the deer lay there and watch your neighbor come in and sit in the tree stand to go back in your timber.
Makes sense.
I never would have. Who would have thought of that? But the guy pioneered it, So I think if you're set up with a smaller property with only one access, maybe you got to do more work to it. Maybe you got to do some hinge cutting, figure out your bedding. You have the agriculture, you got the food, the deer are there. They just know you're there. So I think you just set it up different, use different fence lines, use different means of access, low areas and fields.
Yeah. I think that, how do you feel about, as I've gotten older, I'm not going to lie to you, I can't sit all day.
Oh, I get it.
I just don't. I can't get out there and sit from daylight till, if I did it twice this year just because, I'd had opportunity and had put eyes on a really, really, really big deer. And that sparked me to, get a little more
Yeah.
hard at it. But it's just, and I listen to some of this other stuff, and I mean, I don't know how good that is either, because 12 hours of your scent blowing around in the woods. I mean, come on. I mean,
There you
even
go.
if the winds are right, I mean, you've got scent there for 12 hours. I mean, come
That's right.
on. I mean, I get it, but I just sometimes don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, like I said, you'll hear me refer back to Dustin because I said I've learned more from him than I probably ever learned from me. But he said the same thing. Your sense now. There's a couple spots that will sit all day, or a couple locations, or the times right, whatever. Will sit all day. Man, we haven't sat all day in a long time, and we used to do it all the time, and been far more successful not doing it. But we've also been going after a certain thing. You know what I mean? So we kind of changed that game too. But I agree. Your scent blows around all the time. I mean, there's a small chance that you're going to get a big buck that's going to cruise through in the middle of the day in between his does. You better hope. I mean, if you're there, you're there. But that chance is so small, in my opinion. Now you can, like I said, there's a lot of people. I mean, I won't name names, but Knock on Archery, that guy that runs it. And there's a lot of them people that are hardcore logging, hours and hours a day into it. You don't have to do that.
I don't necessarily think so either. I think, but I think that you definitely are onto something about
I mean, now if you're hunting, maybe hunting 3 or 4 miles or however far off on public, you know what I mean? You don't want to lose a spot, whatever.
right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go for it. And that's what we did when we were, out West and stuff. And we'd come in for lunch and stuff, um, but yeah, I could see that scenario where you'd stay out there all day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that access is big. Um, and it seems like the deer are just, I mean, that's why they get to be so big, man. They're adapting just like you are,
Oh yeah.
I was telling, I don't know, I was telling you, or I was telling somebody, I had a deer this year that came in mid morning, and he'd been running. I could tell he'd been running, he come down through there. He wasn't going to be one to shoot, but he was a nice deer. He was going to be nice in a year or two. And he come down through there, come past me, and went right up this little logging road. And I was watching him, and I thought, let's just see what he's going to do. And he just plopped down right in the middle of that logging road. And it's thick in there. It's in an old cow pasture, but he just kind of plopped down right now. I say logging road, but it's just a path that the farmers made to get in and out of there and run cattle and check his fence and stuff. But I thought, I'm not going to do nothing. I'm going to just sit here and just watch him. I just want to see how long he does. And that deer did some of the damnedest things there. He'd lay there. He'd lay completely down like he's dead, throw his head completely down,
Yep.
like he was dead. And then he'd hear something and he'd put his head up. And this went on. I thought, he'll get up and move. I mean, this went on for hours. He stayed in the same spot, hours, because he come through early and plopped down there. So my whole hunt in that stand was basically keeping him from catching me moving around up there. And because he bedded down not 40 yards from me. And so when it come time to leave, it was getting to be about 11 o'clock, and I text my buddy and I said, hey, you're going to have to come over and get this deer up so that I don't bump him,
Yeah.
And I said, just drive through the upper, cornfield on your way out on your side by side. Just drive through it. He'll probably hear it and just kind of get up and get out of there. And then I'll get down and leave. And so I heard him coming. I could hear him up there coming, and he heard him coming, and he looked up there, and he couldn't see him, but he looked up there and listened as he drove past. And he went on past us and went down and made a big circle and come and stopped up there a ways out and said, did he leave? And I said, no. I kind of laughed. And I was like, no, he's still here. So he circled around and come back and drove back up through there. And he stopped on that side-by-side just down from me. And the minute he stopped that side-by-side, the minute that it stopped, that deer got up and just turned. It didn't run, didn't do nothing. It walked right back down, right down past me with its tail tucked, and went, on the same hoof tracks that it came in, it went right back the way that it came. And went right back in and across and out, down through some thick shit and on down the line. But never did jump up, never did throw its tail and run. He just stood up. And I asked him, I said, could you see him? And he goes, yeah, I seen him stand up. And I said, he just got up and walked on out of the way. Like he didn't want you to, hoping that you wouldn't see him.
Yep.
But I learned from that because that lets you, how many times do we walk past these damn things,
That's right.
and they'll stay there as long as they don't feel like you're on to them.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I'm assuming that.
I think so. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that was something that was interesting to me was the fact that how long he held in there and didn't blow out, just worked his way right back out of there. So, that was something that was, made me kind of think about it a little bit, like, dang, that's interesting.
Yeah. All their personalities, are different. It's so fun to sit there and watch them because they all do something different.
Yeah. I had Dr. Grant Woods on this podcast, and I really enjoyed that show with him because he brought a lot of insight that I try to revert back to, thinking about. And, you'd said it just a minute ago, how, when I was telling you about pressure in a deer, and it really comes down to the deer. Like we got to remember that they all have their own personalities too.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, they do. Like one might tolerate more than another one will.
Yeah.
With pressure, with different things like that. They're all different.
Yeah.
One win to you and he ain't coming back there.
Yeah.
But another one that's bigger than him might let you walk through there 2 or 3 times. Sure. I guess they're all different.
They're all, absolutely.
The other thing that I liked what he said, I don't know what your thoughts on that are, is sometimes we as humans we think too much that a deer thinks like a human.
100%.
Or we put in our mind of what's that deer going to do. We think as a human what the deer is going to do instead of thinking as a deer, and we think, oh, I got to go sit up here because he's going to go over there because we think that he's going to go over there. But we're thinking that because of that's what as a human, thinking. And I think some of that needs to go back to like what this time of studying and watching them on your property, of where do they go if a coyote's chasing them? How do they, where do they run to? Or if the neighbors are walking around and you can see, what do they do when they see the neighbor? How do they run through your place, and learn from that instead of like, oh, I bet he's going to come down through here, instead of spending some more time on where do they go on their own?
Yeah. Because
I think inevitably that's what they're going to do. They're going to do what's normal to them or what's safe to them.
100%.
What's worked in the past, Now, naturally, if you go in there and blow one out, they're just going to blow out of there to just get the hell out of the way. But if they're just getting up and moving or trying to get out of your way, I don't think a lot of times, I don't really think they want you to see them either, no more than you have
100%.
to.
Yeah. And we've a little bit, we've done a little bit of things, but back behind my house, there's a 40-acre CRP grown up in trees stuff. We went in there and cut a bunch of trails a couple years ago, tried to get the deer to walk where we wanted them to walk. Ended up killing a pretty good buck back there that year. Did it last year, and they did it too. Not as much as they did the year before. I think I cut too many last year. Gave me too many options. This year I'm going to give them a lot less options. But the one deer I killed, actually would watch him bed in like a multiple floor rose bush. I could see his antlers in there turning around. And hunted him a couple times before it ended up killing him. But yeah, he would get up out of that bush and just look around for a while, and then he'd walk. And sometimes he'd cut that trail. The couple times I didn't get to connect with him, he actually cut the trail, didn't walk down it. And then one day it was raining. I mean, pouring. I was soaked. I didn't think I was going to last the whole time. But I look over and I see them antlers again. He stood up. He come out of them just almost at the same time. He'd do it every day with the wind, the same winds. He'd get up, and instead of cutting that trail for some reason, he turned and went right down it. He came right by me. And I said, it's just weird. Other days he'd cut it. This day he went right down it. And had on camera him going down it in the dark. So I don't know what changed or why he decided to do it, but.
Well, and that's the other thing that I want to bring up is these cameras, because I'm going to tell you what, they piss me off sometimes because, and I'll tell you why. And my buddy, and I'll give credit to him on this, my buddy that I hunt with, he hates them. Really? He does. He hates them. And after talking with him more and more, I understand why he hates them, because and he's right in a sense. He says, we're taking out the hunting, and not that it's an advantage, but what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves, and he's talking about us, me and him, maybe not everybody, but we're allowing ourselves, the cameras, to dictate what we're doing, And he goes, I don't like that. He goes, I like them that you because I put them all out and stuff. He goes, I like that you got them so that we can see what's there.
Yeah.
He goes, but even with you having them there and me watching them and getting them, he gets the same notifications I do. He goes, I fall into the same damn trap of, well, I didn't see one on camera today, or I didn't see one in there. And so many of these other guys, I heard a couple of these other, TV hunters and stuff, they was out shed hunting this fall or this, late winter here. And in an area, he went in and into an area that he didn't think that deer was even there anymore. Yeah. And he'd found the sheds on it. And he's like, and he had cameras there. He goes, I've had cameras here and I haven't had a picture of him nowhere. Yeah. And he goes, here's his sheds. He's in here. And I think that those cameras, I know I do. I rely on them too much and I need to get back to more of an inventory thing versus, and I hear these guys do it too. Like one of them, I ain't going to mention like a guy's name, but and then he contradicts himself on, well, camera movement. I've got, all these cameras out and there ain't much, I haven't been getting much movement on the camera. So, the hunting's probably not going to be good, but I mean, how much do we put in them? How much faith do we need to put in those? Because so they're not moving right there, right in front of that camera, but who's to say that they're not moving? They're just not moving right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think I take a camera as a tool, right? So your camera's in the summer, that's inventory.
Right.
You know what's around, what's in the neighborhood. I got another story about what's in the neighborhood here in a minute, but what's in the neighborhood? So you know what's going around. And then as soon as they go to hardhorn, I put all my cameras on scrapes, rub lines, scrapes, pinch points, down fence lines, anywhere where bucks move.
Right.
I mean, completely change everything. And that's what you need to use them as such, in my opinion. But what does a picture mean to you? Oh, there's a nice buck that walked by it. I mean, I try to use anything and everything scientific on why that deer was there and when he was there. Don Higgins, I'm pretty sure, is the one that said this, that your pictures now are intel for 2 to 3 years later from now.
Really?
Yeah. So you get a 2.5-year-old buck that's worth looking at, or 3.5-year-old buck that's worth looking at. You need to inventory that deer every year until he's old enough to kill him. Then you'll know what he's doing, because they swear them deer will do the same thing within a couple days from one another every single year. And we try to do that too. Like I said, put anything and everything scientific into one of them pictures on why he's there, when he's there. Now you got to throw them rut pictures when he's chasing does out the window.
Right.
But the other ones, the other ones for sure.
So you think that a person has to keep a more like a very chronological, serious inventory per se.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work in that.
Oh, there's a lot of work in it, but the easy part is Onyx. there's notes on Onyx. So all you got to do is go to the day on Onyx, put you in a note, this, and that. Or you can actually, I mean, you can screenshot it and note it on your phone.
Right.
I said, save it on them folders. Like I said, we just always try to replay back. Was this a deer we had, not had? Why is he here? What's he doing? Type of day. The moon, was there a weather event? Whatever. Basically, why is he there and what's he doing there?
What do you think about the moon? Because I've heard
well,
Dr. Grant says,
well, I know,
well,
we try to take every advantage as we can to kill a deer. So you use anybody's intel. I mean,
right.
Whether you believe in it or not, you're still going to put a little bit of weight into it. The bracket show. He's big he's around Peoria, Illinois. He is big on talking about the vampire walk. And it is, the big boys will be on their feet 48 hours before the full moon and 48 hours after. Go back and look at some of your pictures and tell me if that dude knows what he's talking about.
Really?
Yep. Go back. And then, the deer in daylight. Now, he says they'll daylight. Like I said, go look at your pictures. They don't have to be the oldest bucks. Who cares? Just go back to 48 hours before your full moon and 48 after and see. I think there's a little bit of clout there.
Really?
Yeah. Now I ain't saying,
Well, I think that all of it, and I think some of this still, like you said, I think I think all of it is some kind of intel.
Yeah.
And then you still have to, like you said, there still has to be other, I'm sure there's other factors in there, whether it be the deer's personality, the pressure that an area gets, I think all of that plays into, because it seems like more and more, and I don't know if you notice this as much, and maybe it's always been this way, but to me, it seems like more and more and more, it seems like it's like the things are becoming more and more nocturnal. I don't know if there's anything to be said for that or not. And I'm sure they've always been nocturnal. I'm not saying that they haven't, but it seems like I've just noticed more and more nocturnal activity. I don't know if it's more and more pressure or what, but
are they really nocturnal, or are you just that far away from their bed?
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
A deer's got to move in daylight. I mean, maybe he won't. I mean, maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Maybe his distance is small, but I don't know. I think you're a long ways away from where he beds if you only see him
at night
in dark.
Yep. Really?
Yep.
I wonder how much a person needs to think about this. Think about this for a minute. How often do you see a deer and never see him again? Because I've had a couple of times, like for instance, this year, I got 2 pictures. Here we go back to these pictures again. I got a picture of a just a giant. I mean, biggest deer I've hunted was this year. Was the biggest deer that I've ever put eyes on to hunt in the woods that I feel that I legitimately was trying to hunt. And picture of him at dark was the first time I seen him. Hunted him 3 days later in that same vicinity where that camera was. Did put eyes on him in daylight. Never seen him again anywhere on the farm until gun season. And then I seen him in daylight again on Saturday at gun season. And then never seen another picture of him again after that.
Really?
I don't know if that was because I screwed up the second time I seen him and he hasn't been back, or he's not back in that area, or, like I said, we're talking about a few cameras here on a farm that, but I don't know. He never got killed. He's still alive, or somebody had been talking about him.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I'll play with a story like that. Put out cameras this summer, had a really awesome buck come on camera he's a straight 10. Hammer of a freaking deer. And anyway, he was on camera. He was early season. We had this, I don't know, scrape line where he put this camera at, and he was on it all the time. I mean, not super regular, but like I said, he was still in velvet, but he'd be traveling this route, and that deer went hard horn, or around the time deer went hard horn. Never seen that deer again. Never made one appearance on that camera. Had other cameras close to in the area, and I say close within 200 yards. And like I said, cross a creek, whatever, different areas. Never seen that deer. November, it would have been in the rut. Just an awesome spot to hunt. So my buddy Dustin, he's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go sit in this spot and hunt there. He goes, it's a good spot. He goes, I understand we haven't had a big one on camera, but there was one there this summer. Goes in there, sits down. I think he might have hunted that morning, seen a couple deer, went back in there that afternoon, set up. I don't know exactly how his hunt went, but sat there, and he's an aggressive hunter. He grit out the horns, and he said he hammers them together, looks off in this ditch, and he sees these tines walking down this ditch headed due north. And there's a crossing there. We'd done some work in there to make this crossing where this had come out right in front of him. And he said he couldn't tell what deer it was, but he could tell it was wide and had tall tines. Walks to that crossing, slams on the brakes. He turns directly around. Now the wind's hitting him in the face at this point, but turns directly around, walks back south, crosses the ditch in another location that we didn't know about, which would put him behind Dustin and downwind of where he just rattled. And it's pretty amazing that a buck can pinpoint a tree on where they rattle. Crosses the ditch, comes up behind him, and hits his wind. The deer Dustin said the deer slammed on the brakes. He's about 40, 45. Slammed on the brakes, turns around nice and slow, and goes to walk off, and that's when Dustin let him have it. Anyway, the deer ended up scoring 189 inches. Had that deer in velvet. He went hard horn. Never seen him again. Killed him within 50 yards of where he was at all summer.
So what do you think? So do you think that the reason, why do you think he backed off that crossing?
He knew something was up. He had to get downwind to where that rattling was. I mean, he was a smart deer. Like I said, antlers don't make a deer smart.
Right.
Age makes a deer smart. And he was just old enough to know that he hit that crossing. He could easily popped up right there and probably seen anything and everything he wanted to see. But he either wasn't smelling it, didn't see what he wanted to see, so he came back to try to get downwind of where. And he had it pegged. But Dustin found a freaking hole the size of this cup right here and let him have it, but just got lucky in that regard. But yeah, they don't get big and old by
no, dumb. You're right. They don't. And the thing about them is the damn things, they seem to, just when you think you've got something figured out, they change it up, you know?
Yep.
It's just crazy how they can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I told you about that hunt Easton went on when he just sat in the stand by himself, didn't even have a bow, nothing. Sat at my pond dam, and you know where my pond dam is.
Right.
I think he's seen 8 bucks that night, some does, some of the biggest deers I've ever seen in his life. And he was telling me and Dustin about this deer, and he's like, oh, it's huge. He goes, and this is at my house, and hadn't really done a whole lot of hunting directly behind my house. Quite a ways behind my house I had, but not directly behind my house. But long story short, I got a good buddy of mine that I shoot out of his archery shop. So he takes care of my bow stuff. He does thermal coyote hunting. And anyway, he set up there behind my house, and he said, yeah, there's a giant living at your pond.
Really?
And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, oh no, because he's a real deal. But I never even seen that deer.
Really?
Nope. Never even seen. And there's a ton of deer that'll come up in my yard and stuff like that, and mill around and whatnot. But no, me personally, never laid eyes on him.
Do you think that there are some that will literally just, you say, well, they all have to, maybe it's just because he's been that far away. Do you think that some deer that get that old just know that they're going to lay down till it's dark and get up and move?
Oh, I think there's some clout in that, yeah.
That they just know, have been around long enough or know an area well enough that her safest bet is to just wait till dark.
Yeah, I think the only way you kill him is to get in there and kick him up.
Get him moving.
Run him off, yeah. Hopefully he comes back and beds up there because that's what he's done his whole life.
Right.
There's some guys that live and die by that kind of hunting.
What do they call that? The old bump and dump or dump and bump?
DeQuisco boys.
Yeah. They like to go in there, bang them out of there, and then set right up on them and wait for them to come back in there, which, they've been successful at doing that.
Super successful doing it.
I'm sure that works. I don't know how much. I mean, it's like what you said. They're going in there to kill him that day. It's not like,
and that's exactly where that mentality comes from. Some guys like, man, we don't hunt. We go in there to kill them. We wait till kill them.
Well, I don't know. I think we got a lot to discuss over the time. I'd like to do something more regular. We'll come up with a regimen of things and discuss them. But I wanted to make sure that you get this today.
Well, thank you. Look at that.
What do you think about that?
That's pretty awesome.
That'll be neat to have.
It's actually it's going to take it. If I can take it anywhere, it's going to take a little trip to the beach here in a couple of days.
Is it?
Yeah.
There you go warm it up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get some pictures of it down there.
There you go. Yeah, take it around. I know Tom shoots on what's that tour you shoot on?
It's the ASA tour. Yeah. So got a shoot coming up here this week. I don't know if I'll be able to hit a lot of them this year, but going to try to hit as many as I can.
Yeah. Well, take the belt with you.
Yeah, I will.
Wear it with pride.
I will.
Well, folks, listen, we're a little behind this year. Kind of got a late start to getting going here. I know we're going to have Ron Slifers coming back on here in probably about a week. We're going to talk to him about his season. He had a hell of a season with, I'm not going to announce how many deer that he was able to retrieve with that hound of his, but it was pretty impressive.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah.
And some cool stories and stuff that we're wanting to go through and talk about. So we're going to have that one's going to come up next. We're going to have Ron back. Him and Gary are going to come back down and we're going to shoot the breeze about this season. We got some more shows coming, but Tom, I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on a great deer. And I know that you're going to be one to be reckoning with on a yearly basis with that title. So it's in good hands, and I know that you'll represent well.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate everything. So, folks, tune in next time to the show, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you.